my essay is entitled Dragons of Industry, Nicomachean Ethics, and Modern Management, and I really wanted to investigate through Aristotle the essay question, which was, what is management good for? I really latched onto the idea of the word good, and I wanted to relate that to Aristotle's notion of the good life and what role happiness played in creating the good life. So I wanted to sort of take the lessons and philosophies of Aristotle in that regard and apply them to modern management positions. Coming to Austria was a huge thrill for me. I'd never been to Europe at all previously, and I think Vienna was a good first impression of Europe. The people have been very hospitable, very accommodating, and the Peter Drucker Forum itself has been a huge eye-opener, very inspiring. I already realize now that there are a few revisions I'd probably like to make on my essay just based off of what I've heard and conversations I've had with a very distinguished and very, very intelligent audience. So that aspect of it as well has been a huge honor and a privilege, and again, I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
The essay I submitted is entitled When Management is Not Self-Centered. Its main focus is on the famous notion of Milton Friedman on shareholder value maximization. And I think my main idea is that this notion in the writing of Friedman is not an economic notion, but it is rather a social notion. And I find that really interesting because reading Friedman in this way allows you to connect his ideas to the management as social task idea formulated in the writings of Peter Drucker. And that's something I tried to express and analyze in my essay. I'm quite thrilled by the conference because what they succeeded in doing is bringing together quite impressive thinkers and academics, as well as very impressive people from the practical world of management. And they really, what the organizers did is they really put those people into dialogue, and being a witness to this dialogue, being also part of this dialogue as one of the participants in the Drucker Challenge, still is and has been over the last 2 days a tremendous experience. So what do I take away? I think that, again, good ideas, they have to be good ideas in intellectual terms, but they also have to be formulated in a way that they're appealing to the practice. And that's something which I think is still that's a very valid, relevant thought in the works of Drucker, and that's something which was put into life at this conference.
My essay was entitled Managing the 21st Century Mill Worker, and what I find interesting is during the Industrial Revolution, there was a major change when you went from agricultural workers to these factory mill workers, and there were huge changes, and going into the 20th century, management helped make this more productive. Now what we're dealing with are knowledge workers, and one of the first really true knowledge workers that I've observed are people who work in content mills, which these are writers who produce content mainly for websites, and they're operated, they've tried to make them efficient much in the same way that Henry Ford made his factories efficient. It's not using managers, it's using scientific management. And in my view, it's not sustainable, and that won't work. These modern mill workers need to be, there needs to be actual management involved. You need to involve people, and you can't just rely on a system of increasing production, telling people, work faster, produce more content, because what you end up with is poor content that doesn't actually, it doesn't create anything of value. I really enjoyed the conference, and what I found most interesting about it is having together a group of people who are interested in management, not just business, not just, you don't hear people talking about the bottom line. That's always important, and that's behind it all, but they're talking about actually creating value. And it's in a way very different than what you'll see in a lot of business environments. And I've enjoyed the mixture of speakers, both the having a combination of academic people, people from the business world, who seem to be on the same page with respect to a lot of these things.
My PhD is on technology innovation, and I look at how technological innovations throughout history have helped create innovations for new medicines. But more recently, I've been looking at social innovation and how Peter Drucker was one of the first forefathers of social innovation. And this was back in the 80s, and now it's 2011, and we're really able to bring about some of these ideas, especially in global health. So one of the examples I used was the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations, which really is an alliance bringing about all its different partners from the public, the private sectors, and the NGO civic sector world. Even though they don't produce anything like a product or manufacture a good, it's still a social innovation in bringing together all those partners for a common mission. Personally, I was really impressed by the Peter Drucker Forum. It's my first time here at the forum. What I liked most was that unlike some management conferences, which are specifically just research papers, or some practitioner conferences which are all managers, they really managed to bring the two worlds together. So at the coffee breaks and at the lunch breaks, you could really hear the practitioners talking about, well, how do we bring these ideas to life on Monday or maybe next month, and just thinking about it in their daily lives. So it's very hands-on practical and almost immediate. What I was also really impressed by was Mrs. Drucker's introduction on the first day. She's 100 years old, and she's been with Peter for a long time, and she obviously is a very smart lady as well. So I see that the society is managed well, and that people really believe in continuing on Peter Drucker's ideas.
So my essay is entitled The Second Step, what managers can learn from firefighters about good management. And sometimes there's the notion that private companies really know how to manage and public organizations don't, and that public organizations use very kind of old traditional ways of managing. So usually one would say firefighting, that's just command and control. But what I found is when actually and working with firefighters and going to fire stations is that firefighters really make more out of that, or there's like a social dimension to that command and control. So if you command, for instance, an intervention, the first thing you have to do is you have to decide where to park your cars. And that seems to be a very easy decision, but it's not, because you cannot move the turntable ladder later, so it's kind of hard to really make that decision, and it has a long-term impact because you don't want anybody to jump from a window to the ladder in 20 meters above ground. So the first thing is that commanding actually is about experience, and it's about responsibility. It's about responsibility for the people that you manage. My conclusion is there's a very famous, or not very famous, but one of the things that Peter Drucker said is that that when you organize work, it's only the first step to organize it so that it fits the work. But the second and much more difficult step is actually to organize it in a way that it matches human beings. And here you have to organize an operation where in very dangerous places with people who don't get any bonuses or these kind of things. So it's quite a challenge, and they managed to do so very well. And I think that when you look at what is management good for, you can really find good examples there, and I think other people could learn a lot from that. Even so, they seem to apply very old or traditional kind of management practice. I didn't know Peter Drucker before, and I started reading Peter Drucker after getting the invitation to the challenge, and I was like, oh, that man actually said quite a lot of things that I write about my firefighters. Like he also said, if if you get power, that means you also you need to take responsibility, and that's something which firefighters very well know. You know, I had like a firefighting commander who told me, I'm not only a commander, but I'm also like, so he said, I have different jobs here, and one of them is to be a marriage counselor for his teams. So that's a very interesting way of seeing the world, and I found that Peter Drucker was describing that in his work. And the way firefighters just do it without knowing Peter Drucker.
My name is Wasima. I'm from the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands. I'm a PhD student in corporate law, started my PhD research 1 year ago, and decided to enter the Drucker essay contest because it's very much related to my PhD research. It's about managers and shareholders looking after their own interests and thereby neglecting other stakeholders' interests. And that's also what my PhD research is about, so I'm very much interested in that topic. And during the Peter Drucker Global Forum, that topic has been raised a lot. So it was very interesting for me to attend this forum and hear more about it and different views from different people, from different backgrounds. So when you ask me management what it's good for, I would say let us hope it will be good for bringing back the human side of business to life again, with hopefully a little help from reforms in the law of business corporations. What I liked about the forum was that my subject was also raised a lot, and I heard a lot of pros and cons. So it was not just about a shareholder value maximization is bad. There was actually also Speaker Adrian Woolrich who was very critical about it. So it was actually a nice debate going on about the pros and cons of shareholder value maximization, and also about CSR and if it works, and also the divergence between theory and practice, which has to be, there's a big gap which needs to be filled. So I find it quite interesting to hear people, academic people, saying the theoretical implications, such as Michael Kramer with his take on shared value. There are also a lot of people who gave a practical point of view with their experience in the business field. So I found it nice to see this interaction between theory and practice going on at the forum.